Just a little disclaimer, this video contains adult themes and references to murder. So if you are under 18, you need to keep scrolling and go and find another video. There are so many cute animal videos out there, oh my god. Go check them out. Okay, they're gone? Great. Today our story is about Giulia Tofana, an Italian herbalist who was known to have killed 600 men in the 17th century. But there's a twist. Stay tuned to the end to find out what it is and decide for yourself whether you think that Giulia really is a murderess or if she's completely innocent. This story has some really long, complicated words and I am not going to be able to pronounce, so I'm just going to get those words out of the way now. So Giulia Tofana was born in Palermo, Sicily. And her mother was named Giulia di Donno. Di Donno. I think I nailed it. Okay, and just to start the story with a little bit of background, Giulia's mother was actually executed for murdering her husband. There are loads of journals written from the time that suggest and give evidence that Giulia's story was true and that she did exist. But there isn't a single portrait or picture of her. I've been trying to create an interpretation of my own piece of art and a portrait of her that you can relate to. It's just my personal representation of her, the kind of hairstyle that she would have worn that was fashionable. She was very beautiful, it's been said. The type of outfit that she would have worn, and obviously she's a young, beautiful woman. She's going to be going after the best fashions. She was very successful and she had her own business, she was making her own money, so I kind of tried to look at the kind of clothes that she maybe would have bought for herself. So Giulia spent a lot of time growing up working in the apothecaries. She would spend most of her time there, learning as much as she can, absorbing all the things that she could. And she also learned to make her own, as well as her herbal remedies, she also learned to make her own cosmetics, and that was a huge thing back then. This is like the Renaissance period. Women wanted to look beautiful. They were putting all kinds of things on their skin and taking so many risks with all these dangerous chemicals. I mean, the sort of thing you learn about in history class. It's like arsenic, it's like belladonna in the eyes. They're literally putting poison in their eyes to make their pupils bigger because they thought it would make them look more attractive. So cosmetics and natural medicines and herbs, it was all a really big business back then. And women weren't really treated very well. They were kind of just married off. And even the most well-off to do people in society, the women were they were treated like shit. It didn't matter if you were wealthy, you were just thrown into a marriage back then. You were abused. The only way you could get out of a marriage back then was if one of you died. So we have Giulia over here making our little herbal remedies and her cosmetics, and then we have women in the greater society of the time who are being beaten up, they're dying in childbirth. Even the mistresses were there, just everyone, all the women were just taken advantage of, treated like slaves. They had no lives, they couldn't do anything, and they couldn't get out of their marriages. So Giulia comes along. Now, Giulia, what did you do, Giulia? Giulia knew the ingredients for cosmetic preparations. She knew how to make women beautiful. She knew what products were sitting on women's dressing tables. And she also knew that many of those products were extremely deadly. I think you kind of get where I'm going with this. Giulia created a product. She set up her own little cosmetics counter or stall or shop, whatever you want to call it back in those days. I don't really know how to explain it. She set herself up a little business selling cosmetics, okay? Great, awesome Giulia, you're doing great, you're successful, you're beautiful, you're setting up your own business, fantastic. Except Giulia had made this product called you can imagine it on a perfume ad, you know, all them sexy women and, you know, anyway. So she made a product called Aqua Tofana. The product had several names. She made a powder at one point and then it turned into a liquid. She also put a Pope on it, also a picture of a Pope. So Giulia made this product that she advertised as a cosmetic product. Now this product contained all of the common ingredients that women were using as cosmetics back in the day. It contained a concoction of arsenic, lead and belladonna. Now initially Aqua Tofana was a powdered product, but Giulia soon disguised it in little vials of liquid and she called it St. Nicholas of Bury because he was a well-known healer in the time. So the product Aqua Tofana could then be sold as both a cosmetic product or a healing oil. And in both cases, women could keep this on their dressing table and it would go unnoticed. So it wouldn't raise any suspicion. And Giulia would sell her little Aqua Tofana creation to women, specifically women who needed an out of their relationship. By out, you get me, right? Out, like, they needed to get rid of their husbands. So we had Giulia in the 17th century Renaissance period selling this effective poison to women disguised as a cosmetic product or healing oil, which they would keep on their dressing tables. They would administer it to their husbands via their drinks or their meals, because of course women were expected to provide all the meals and cook and dote on their husbands, basically. Nice. And so when their demanding husbands were waiting on their dinner, the little wives would go and prepare their food and drop a few drops of Aqua Tofana into it. And how it was described was a clear and harmless looking liquid, a small 4 to 6 drops, efficient to destroy a man. Aqua Tofana was a very quick and discreet solution to many women of the time's problems. It was colourless, tasteless, it could be mixed with water or wine, and the symptoms were subtle and those of an advancing disease. And in those times, it was completely undetectable. A single dose of Aqua Tofana would bring about cold-like symptoms. By the 3rd dose, the victim would experience dehydration, diarrhea, sickness, and feel rather ill. And it was not until the 4th dose would death occur. Giulia would advise her clients that only a few drops at a time were to be used. It meant that the women would go unsuspected. She also directed the women how to act when their husbands died and how they should order a post-mortem upon death. That way, she would be cleared from any suspicion. At this point, I feel it's very important just to mention that if anyone is listening to this and thinking, oh, I know these ingredients, maybe I could make a poison. Arsenic attaches to keratin in the body, okay? So if you try to poison someone with arsenic, you will find there is a build-up of arsenic in hair and nails, and when they dig up graves from the past and they assess some of the bodies, they can actually now find out that people have died from arsenic poisoning, because they can do these tests that they couldn't do back then. So if you are thinking about using arsenic to poison someone, you may want to reconsider. Yeah, just okay, let's lighten it up a little bit. So Giulia was basically, she was selling these women this poison, and obviously she was very close with who she kept as a clientele. All her clients, anyone that she sold Aqua Tofana to, was carefully vetted. They had to have references from some of her previous clients. You know, she was really careful to cover her tracks. She did not want any suspicion. So she was a smart woman, and kind of think she had a heart of gold, because I know she still murdered people, but you know, did she may have saved so many women's lives. She really was a friend to, you know, the troubled wife, and we don't know all the facts, we don't know the whole story, we weren't there. It's very hard to, you know, say what happened, but anyone else getting this vibe that maybe she's just kind of trying to do a girl a favour? Just keep your opinions to yourself, Kayleigh. Right, so Giulia did have her daughter working with her, as well as I think 3 other employees. Everything was going fine, it went great. At some point her husband died, which we won't mention that, but her husband died and she moved to Rome, and she kind of upgraded a little bit to avoid suspicion. She kept doing what she was doing, but this time she started including a little instruction booklet or a label on her Aqua Tofana, and it basically gave them instructions of how to use the product as a cosmetic product. So, you know, that kept her little business going for a little while, until something happened. Fix my eyelash right quick, because my eyelashes keep falling off, and you guys have probably noticed it like 20 minutes ago. Oh, okay. Are we good? Okay, so we're good for 5 minutes, and then I'll have to do it again. It's okay. Just deal with it. So, Giulia, you tried so hard, my pretty, and people just there's always that one person, am I right? So 1650 to 1651, a woman was preparing soup for her husband. He was like, you know, come on, hurry up, give me my soup, I'm freaking hungry. Okay, right? Yeah, she's like, yeah, okay. She puts a little drops of Aqua Tofana in it. This is the first time that she has tried to give a dose of it to her husband. Okay, she's never used it before. She's a new client. She was vetted, all good, but you know, sometimes I guess it takes a lot of guts to poison someone. So he'd taken a few bites, and then she was like, oh my god, no, stop what you're doing right now, just put the soup down, put that spoon, no more, no. And he's like, why? And she's just like, she obviously had a change of heart. She didn't want to poison her husband anymore. Okay, yeah, right. But now she's really screwed herself over, because she is telling this guy, she's screaming at him, she's standing up, she's waving around and she's like, don't eat the soup. Of course you're gonna be like, okay, this is suspicious. So he starts going psycho. He starts beating her, and he starts going mad at her. He's like, tell me what is in the soup. What have you done to the soup? So eventually she confesses, and then he drags her ass down to the police station. She goes to the police station and she admits everything. Great, now everyone is fucked. Okay, so Giulia's going to be fucked and her whole clientele list is going to be screwed. So word gets back to Giulia that, you know, this woman's just fucked up. She's freaked out over a bowl of soup. Yeah. So now everyone's freaking out. Giulia decides she needs to get out. She needs to get away. She knows she's done for. So what she does is she goes to the nearest church and she tries to seek refuge while she can sort of organise herself in order to really, really move away. Like, I guess she probably wanted to go to another country or something, but she just couldn't do that straight away. So she found refuge in the church. The townspeople, I guess, found out, and they basically came at her with pitchforks and demanded that the church give her over. Yeah, I can imagine that in the 17th century, you know, this is the kind of time when they were burning women alive. So I imagine the church was probably quite scared, and they were like, I'm sorry, but you know, we gotta hand you over Giulia. Giulia was tortured. When they had the story about how Giulia had been kind of like poisoning men through cosmetics, they all went a bit loopy and they were like, oh my god, okay, she's now hysteria, poisoned the whole water supply in Rome and everybody freaking hated it. It wasn't true. Like, you know, she was in the church, how could she poison the whole water supply? I mean, it would be funny, but good prank. No, so wouldn't be funny, Kayleigh, no. Giulia got tortured, and through the long arduous torture, Giulia confessed to the responsibility of likely killing over 600 men between 1633 and 1651. In July 1659, Giulia was executed along with her daughter and 3 of her staff members in Rome's Campo di Fiori. I'm not sure how she was executed, but it was a place that was known very well at the time for hangings and burnings. And at the end of the day, Giulia's body was thrown over the wall of the church who gave her sanctuary. I guess that was just like a big fuck you. Like, here, you wanna have her? I don't know. A lot of the clients, although they escaped execution, I don't know if any of them were executed, but I think that they were bricked into the palace dungeons. So they were kind of basically buried alive in the dungeons rather than being executed. So that made 3 generations of Giulia's family executed for murder. But the twist is, and it's a really sad twist, these were times of witch hunts, and any woman could have been picked out and tortured just because society didn't like them. Giulia was a very powerful woman. She was successful and she created her own business and she empowered other women through her business. And there's a chance that Giulia could have just been a woman who had a cosmetic business. What we learn about the murders has come from journals written by the same people who tortured her. They're gonna write whatever they want in order to do what it is that they want to do. It's their point of view. So what they wrote about her making these poisons and killing all these people, it could just be a load of bullshit. Like, she may have she was using common ingredients in cosmetics. You know, it could be that it was just a cosmetic and there was 1 or 2 of her clients that just knew they could use it to kill people and Giulia didn't know about it. Like, we don't know whether Giulia really intentionally went out to murder people or even create a poison. Her mother was executed for murdering her husband. That may have had some stigma left on her by society. They may have been like, oh, we don't like this woman, her mother did this bad thing, so let's frame her for something. This is a time where women were just burned, just destroyed, just wiped out of society. For what? For not being liked. Prejudice, just so much bullshit went on. How can we trust anything that any of the journal tells us? This history is tainted in so much racism, and there's so many things wrong with society. It's a great story, and I'd love to believe that maybe she did get rid of a few men in order to save some women from almost certain death through beats and whatever else. I mean, it's kind of nice in a horrible way, but this woman could have been executed for nothing. And her daughter, she could have witnessed her daughter being executed, and she may have also known perhaps her mother was executed for nothing. Like, unless we were there, unless we were Giulia, we will never know what really happened in the world of Giulia Tofana. I wanted to do the story for a very long time, and I knew I couldn't do it justice, and I kept putting it off and putting it off, and at the end of the day it was just like, no, just do it. Just share it, just tell people about Giulia Tofana. I hope you enjoyed the story of Giulia Tofana. I don't know everything, history doesn't know everything, and now you don't know everything either, but you know something, and I hope at the least it entertained you. Come back for more stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel where I'll be sharing them regularly, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be safe and stay happy.